look, doubt Coach Prime at your own peril, because he will get into a post-game press conference and he will remind you of that like he did all day yesterday. I said it on College Football Final. That is peak Deion. He high-stepped throughout his entire career, and he high-stepped his way into that press conference after beating TCU. They were 3-touchdown underdogs, and they did what they had to do. 4 receivers over 100 yards, Shedora school record. But, Paul, here's what I find interesting about how things aligned for Colorado and Prime. They owned a Saturday where there was nothing to own, and they were the early kickoff. So from early kickoff through 3:30 p.m. Eastern through the end of the night, Paul, they were the story, and they're going to continue now to be the story.
They are, and that's been the embodiment of Prime's career. And Matt, I know a lot of people are shocked, and I was too, but I shouldn't have been, because I forgot the most important element. It was Deion Sanders in Colorado wasn't the key to this game. It was just accepting the fact that whenever TCU has the stage to itself, they embarrass themselves.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to sit here and argue with that, because we were watching that, and I get the opportunity now to watch college football for 16 hours on Saturdays with Dan Mullen. And as you know, when you're around a coach watching football, it's completely different than any other experience, because they will see things right away and point to it. And then that makes me see it right away and point to it. And he said early on, he's like, wow, TCU is not the same team defensively. They are lost. They're slow. They've got to figure this thing out. And here's how I want to say this. You can't not give Colorado, Coach Prime, and those players credit. You can't. Their stars were playing in FCS last year, and they dominated in their first FBS game. I don't know that the 17 attached to TCU is appropriate based on what we saw. Not taking anything away from Colorado, but I don't know that TCU is the 17th best team in the country.
And listen, I think we both have equal respect for Sonny Dykes, but the real problem now, Matt, is that in these two major events, the 65 to 7 beatdown that nobody will ever forget, and what we saw, they carry this now around their neck. I mean, that they just can't handle the big stage, even though we know that's not true. They beat Michigan in the semifinal. They did, but they lost the championship game. But it will haunt them. And quite frankly, I don't want to hear about TCU anymore this season.
Yeah, I don't think you will, because they were Prime's first at his new job. I got a buddy of mine, a good buddy of mine, is a TCU alum. I was like, dude, the last thing you wanted to do was be Deion Sanders first, and he did it all to himself and a stage all to himself. And as we move forward, we're doing some research on live television real time last night. So at some point last week, Paul, I don't know the day, forgive me, Nebraska was an 8.5-point favorite against Colorado. By the time I got on TV last night, it had moved to 1.5. If they win, like, the hype was there preseason. Hype is here now. If they get through Nebraska and go 2-0, God save the television networks and cameras for Deion.
And Matt, help me with something, because I watched the end of the game Thursday night, and I thought Colorado. I mean, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, Thursday night when Minnesota was playing Nebraska, I thought Nebraska made a coaching change. Why was Scott Frost coaching at the end of that game? Because it did not look any different than what we saw last year.
It was so heartbreaking to watch, because we know, because we've been in this industry and covered it for such a long time, especially college football, we know the heartache that happens in this sport. I still have scar tissue from the Rose Bowl in 1997 with Arizona State and Ohio State. We know this. But the fact that Nebraska fans had to have a game stripped from them literally in the final couple of minutes to go through that again after going through it during the Scott Frost era, to now have to take it against an old classic rival in Colorado, and the spotlight, which, by the way, Paul, guess what? It's the noon Eastern kick next Saturday. This is just fascinating how we collide into this.
Yeah, no, and it's I mean, you just have to give him so much credit, and and forget Prime for a second. I mean, his players. I mean, his son, Travis Hunter. I mean, I looked at something today, and Matt, we don't have time to waste to even criticize the idea that there's a Heisman list before Labor Day. But of course, Travis Hunter was at the top of the Heisman list, and Sanders was second. But that's fine. It just shows you what he does and what he means to a program. And you can get all these other guys. And you can run your team off, but if you have superstars, and he does, it matters.
Here's another one for you. I'll peel behind the curtain for the viewers here on the ESPN College Football YouTube channel. Then we'll move on. We're sitting there and we're watching the game. We're doing our prep for the show yesterday, and this Dylan Edwards kid just keeps going off, screen pass, 75 yards, run. We all sit there because we know Shador, we know Travis Hunter. Those are the guys. We sit there, we're like, who the hell is this Dylan Edwards kid? Start digging in, doing some research. 4-star freshman. Deion got him recruit. He's from Kansas. Here's the scary part. We know in college football that a coach instilling belief in his team is probably 90% of the battle, right? Mm-hmm. If they start to believe, and there's recruits around the country that would otherwise look at Tuscaloosa, look at LSU, look at Georgia, and he starts getting kids to believe, who knows what could happen.
And I'm trying, I don't have it in front of me, but Travis Etienne tweeted, did you see that, about his brother? His brother plays for
Florida.
Clay Napier at Florida.
Yeah.
He said, hey, bro, maybe you ought to consider Prime. And I mean, that's the kind of thing that can create an epidemic. I mean, I was just literally flying yesterday, and I saw that tweet zip through my eyes, and that's why I couldn't even remember it for a second. But I mean, when you got a big time player like that tweeting his brother as opposed to texting him, I mean that sets off alarm bells. And we can say Florida for some other time, but I just thought that just showed you how these things can happen in real time.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.